It's a very fascinating subject, Danish settlements in India. As we all know that French and Portuguese ruled India, but Danish were also there, and very little is known about the rule of the Danish in India. I came across some of the historical records of the 1815 when the reinstatement of the Tranquebar happened after the Napoleonic War. It went to British for some time and then restored back again to the Danish in 1815. Today we are going to talk about those historical records and try to gather some more information, because there is a very little known about the Danish settlements in India. Before we start this subject, let me introduce you with some extra information. The first Danish East India Company was established around November 1616, and a fort was built at Tranquebar. Now it is Tharugambudi near Karaikal in French territory in 1620. The settlement at Serampur near Calcutta in the Hooghly district was established from 1676. Serampur at that time was known as Frederiksnagar and included Akna and Piarpur and Balasur. The settlement at Tranquebar included Poriyar and Tiali as well. There was a Danish settlement also all the way in Nicobar Island as well for a short time period. Tranquebar was taken by the British East India Company from May 1801 to August 1802, and again from February 1808 until it reverted to Denmark on 20th September 1815, and that's what exactly we are going to discuss today. According to Articles 3 and 4 of the Treaty of Kiel, signed on 14 January 1814, however, it will be seen later that matter was settled at the end of 1815. The Danish settlement was sold to the British in 1845 for 12,45,000 rupees, and thereafter it was administered by the East India Company. So this is the basic introduction of the subject. Now, before we get a little deeper in the main subject of the Danish settlements in India, here we should have a little glance on the history of various European settlements in India. So in India, we did not just had the British, French and Portuguese, we had Danish, as I said earlier, and the Dutch as well. So the Dutch came early and left early. So a very little is known about the Dutch settlement in India as well. However, a very little postal history. Portugal, all know arrival of Vasco da Gama at Calicut in an early stage, and then they established in Goa, Diu, Daman, Celestine, Bassein, Chittagong, Hooghly, and other places in India. British East India Company, we are well aware that Madras, Bombay, Calcutta, all these headquarters. French trading post, 1668, Surat, Chandranagar, Masulipatam, Mahe, Pondicherry, and Karaikal. They also had some small branch post offices as well. The Dutch East India Company, they established their trading post at Surat, Broch, Cambay, now known as Khambat, nearly 50 kilometers from the town where I live, Ahmedabad, a popular one, Cochin, Nagapatnam, Chinsura, which is near to Calcutta, Patna, Agra, and finally it was taken over by the British East India Company in 1759. Danish East India Company, the trading post at Calicut, Danmarksnagar, Southeast Chandranagar, which is located Udgwe Torre on Malabar coast, Tranquebar, Serampur, Frederiksnagar, Balasore, which is now in Odisha, and Nicobar Island. And the chronology we can see on the screen, how they left the country and India became later independent. With this map, it will help you to understand a little more with clarity that where exactly this settlements are located. Number 1, which is Serampur. Number 2 is Balasore, and number 3 is Tranquebar. When we are looking this area, particularly on the Hooghly River, you will find that, and you will notice it, it is very interesting that every single European settlement who came to India, however, most of them had their political capital in South India, in this area. At the same time, all of them, most of them, they had their trade capital in this area. Say, for example, if we talk about the French, they had Pondicherry in south and the Chandranagar next to Calcutta. Portuguese, Hooghly. Dutch, they had Chinsura. Same way, the Tranquebar, which was in south as a political capital for Danish, they had Serampur here on the bank of the Hooghly River. So within nearly 50 to 100 kilometer radius of Calcutta, most of the European settlements had their trade capitals, and they were handling their businesses and all sort of other things, commercial things, from this Bay of Bengal because of the sailing boats and steamer services. Looking at a nice picture of Tranquebar when they built their fort. This is from 1620, a very old picture, how they draw the fort, and underneath you will see the recent picture of the Fort Dansborg, was built by Ove Jedde in 1620. And this is exactly the fort now they have in Tranquebar today, which is next to the seashore. So this is the picture if you taken from the seashore side. First governor Ove Jedde, we just talked about him, and the languages spoken in the territory were Danish, Tamil, Hindi, and Bengali. Bengali obviously not in Tranquebar, it's in Serampur, and the Tamil in Tranquebar. So this we are talking in general for the entire settlement. The first governor Ove Jedde ruled for only 1 year, however very efficient, and he built the fort. Then big gap from 1621 to 1673 because there are no records available, and you will see the same gap in most of the period. The next one was Stewart Christian, and the fourth governor general was Peter Anker, which we are going to discuss a little about him in the next slide. A very nice and interesting cover which is addressed to His Excellency Major Anker. So in the background, the picture you are looking, that is Peter Anker himself, a cover, a service letter actually. It's a service letter, official one, from Fort St. George, Madras to Tranquebar, addressed to Peter Anker, the fourth Governor General of the Danish settlement. The marking here you are seeing, that is postpaid Fort St. George, which is on the back, and it is posted on 10th May. And this is one of the earliest known cover in a private collection of my friend Johan Hedergott, and it's from Balasore, dated 7th December 1658. As you can see, these are early dates, so there are no postal markings, and it's going to London. Talking about the postmarks, here I tried to reproduce all of them. The first one, which is in center, postpaid trunk, T-R-A-N-Q. That is Giles type 1, recorded by Hammond Giles in his book. On the left is Tranquebar post not paid, that is Giles type 2. On the right again, Tranquebar postpaid, that is Giles type 3. Then Tranquebar paid in a rectangular box and bearing. And then Tranquebar paid in a trisected box and bearing again in trisected box. In the center, only one postmark is known from the Serampur post office, that is recorded at Giles type 1. So these are the postmarks they used during the Danish period. However, these all postmarks were allocated by the British post offices. And that also we are going to discuss in today's conversation. A beautiful example of the first postmark of the Tranquebar, postpaid trunk going to Pondicherry. So how beautiful is this? From geographically located within the Indian border, from one European settlement, Danish settlement, it is going to another settlement, which is a French settlement. Yes, exactly. The arrow is showing the Tranquebar and underneath the Pondicherry. So this is 1797 to 1808. This particular postmark was in use. I have mentioned it deliberately that usage before 1815, which also we are going to discuss later, that during that period, there were no postmarks because of the impact of the Napoleonic War. Another beautiful example of Tranquebar not paid and going to Pondicherry. See, these all pieces which you are having a look on your screen, these are very difficult to find. This is from 19th May 1823. Another Tranquebar paid marking going to Calcutta, and Tranquebar bearing, which is rare compared to Tranquebar paid. This is a Tranquebar paid trisected marking. This one. And as I said, only one known example from Serampur. This is the Serampur postmark. The mail is going to Guwahati in Assam. Now here the literature, when I was studying this subject, I tried to find the postal history related literature of the Danish settlements in India. So I came to this book, which is on the left. That is the Encyclopedia of British Empire, Volume 3, published by Robson Law. So what Robson Law is writing about the Danish settlements in India, which you can see here. Serampur and Tranquebar were Danish settlements from 1676 and 1620, respectively. They passed into British in 1845. When it comes to John Cooper, the India Used Abroad book, he wrote a little bit more about it, but again with the same story and name of the towns, and sold to British in 1845. So after that, there was another book which was published by Mr. Vispi Dastur on the same subject of the India Used Abroad. And he wrote a little bit more about it, but half of them is coming from the book of Jal Cooper, India Used Abroad. And he also said that it was sold to British in 1845. So this sort of postal history was available, and it was a bit challenging to find out something more about this thing, Danish settlements in India. However, we had Hammond Guy's book for the postmarks, which was very helpful actually. Let me set the screen. Okay. So according to this documents, what I have acquired, I came to the conclusion that from 1616 to 1801, 1802 probably, it was a pure Danish period and Danish rule. 1802 till 1815, there was a war between the British and Danish, which was due to the Napoleonic War over there in Europe. They had disturbances here as well. And after 1815, in October, they restored it back to the, given it back to the Danish, and that is again a pure Danish period from 1815 to 1814. 1845 onwards, under the administration of British East India Company, as they sold the entire thing. Now, this piece of paper which you are seeing on the screen, it comes from the records what I have acquired. Let's go to the next slide where we will be able to read it completely. Okay. Now in this slide, which is written from the British headquarters, Fort St. George, on 13th October 1815, they are writing it that I am directed by the Right Honorable Governing Council to acknowledge the receipt of your letter 22nd, your arrangement for re-establishing a British post office at Tranquebar has been approved and communicated to the Postmaster General. See the word re-establishing. It means, it proves that it was shut down for a period of time. So in October, they are talking to re-establish the same. He has desired to report the usage formerly observed in regard to the payment of postage by the Danish government, whose dispatches will post free, pending the expenses to the records in his office, etc. Now, they say that the Danish official will have a privilege. Now, you will see the British typical mentality, how strict they were in those days. Here they are in one of the correspondence saying that the necessary orders have been issued at this office for allowing for the present dispatches of Danish government of Tranquebar to post free of postage. And very soon they are saying that all letters franked by His Excellency the Governor of Tranquebar shall be exempt from postage. The Governor in Council considers it unnecessary to extend this privilege to the other member of the Danish government. So they are changing their words, and how quickly, which we will see here. Sorry, I'm missing one of the page. Here is the example of the Tranquebar free marking. I'm trying to. Oh yeah, this restriction was imposed on 11th November 1815. That's exactly what I wanted to tell you. And when they approved it, that was on 13th October. On the left one, which you are seeing the specific approval. So 13th October, they said that it will be for all of the officials, officers of the Danish government. And just after nearly 1 month, 11th November, they are saying that it will be only for the Governor General. So this postmark, which I am showing you here, next slide, Tranquebar free, a very faded one, previously unreported. It is not even recorded in M. Giles. This you are seeing for first time. This postmark was there in existence for the correspondence of the Danish officials. So whenever any Danish governor is sending a mail to the British territory, They don't need to pay the postage. Just strike out this mark on the letter and then they can send it by mail. Here we are talking about re-institution of Tranquebar. This exactly the way they have proposed it. All the political language you will be able to see in the paragraph 2, that all the archives of the Danish government, artilleries, arms, military stores, horses, and in that all property of his Danish Majesty except such provisions as many as have been consumed by his Majesty's forces or used for the public services are to be restored, etc., etc. All every single thing in a very detailing you will be able to find here. And this is the way the Danish settlement came out of the force, the Danish occupation, and gradually it was handed over to British. Serampore in 1839, Tranquebar 7th November 1845, we have the date because that date they had the agreement. Nicobar Island all the way in 1869, so they left very early. However, very little postal history is known of the Nicobar Island, and I have not seen any correspondence in those early period dates. Now, the above exchange of letters between the British and Danish authorities throws new light on the transfer of power to the Danish settlement in India at the end of the conflict that had taken place between 1801 till 1814. This also includes the reopening of the British post offices in Tranquebar and the free post service at the end of 1815. The story of 12 lakh 45,000 rupees sale to the British in 1845 should be treated as a commercial transaction which has nothing to do with the postal history, in my opinion. Obviously, this documents demonstrates that the Danish settlement post offices were handed over to the British in 1815 back. Hence, it is difficult to judge if the postmarks used between 1802 and 1815 during the conflict period are Danish or British. But in my opinion, they are British because it was taken over by the British and handed over back to the Danish in 1815. The original documents are in large format, which I shown you some of the pieces. Okay, and several of them are in poor condition and fragile. However, I made the scans of all legal size documents. We have tried their best to reproduce in the original text with their complete accuracy. It is remarkable that after 200 years, document can be discovered which shed a new light on the postal history of the Danish settlements in India. This all documents are in digital format available for anybody who wants to read it and study further. If anybody wants it, I can send you a link and you can download it from the website. So this was a little about the Danish settlements in India, apart from the literature what is available so far, and I hope you all have enjoyed it.